Good morning, everyone. I want to first welcome my fellow board members. Good morning to each one of you. I want to welcome our town manager, Mr. Scott Crabtree, our finance director treasurer, Wendy Hatch, our clerk, Meredith. I want to thank SCTV for being here this morning, especially with the terrible blizzard conditions. Thank you, John. And Mark Vogler is here, our reporter from the Advocate. So this meeting is strictly to talk about the 2027 budget. As we always do, we're going to start off with a review of the summary letter that our town manager has provided to us. Next, we will ask Wendy, our finance director, to collect our sources and uses of funds documents with our board. We will then review each department's budget in our packet, where board members can ask specific questions. When we finish our review, we will take a vote on the budget, and we will send it to the Finance Committee with our recommendations. Per the charter, we need to give the Finance Committee our recommendations no later than March 1st. As we go through the budget, as we always do, I always ask the same questions to our town manager. When we go through the departmental budgets, Mr. Town Manager, if you could point out to us any significant increase in salaries or change in salaries, identify any new positions, identify any open positions and the progress on filling those positions, status on any outstanding contracts, and I'd also like you to highlight any other significant change from last year in our operating expenses. Mr. Town Manager, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So you guys have the letter, you've done it, but I think for the purposes of the public, I'm going to bore everybody and read it so that it sort of gets in the record and people that are watching or watch this later can understand. This is a preliminary operating budget. It's an estimate for fiscal year 2027. I think as everybody knows, this is early in the process. We actually start very early to try to put numbers together, but as everybody knows, a lot of those numbers don't come through our fixed costs and different increases. We don't actually get those numbers until later, much later in the process, even with local aid, things like that, we won't know, and some of it is even after July. And probably some of you will remember we had times with the state where they'd actually make cuts after the fiscal budget, and we'd have to come back to town meeting and make cuts on our budget because of cuts they made in the state after our budget's actually passed. But keeping that in mind, this is the beginning, and it's an estimate of expenditures. So for the purposes of this, under Article 2, Section 34, I transmit an estimated expenditure with estimated revenues for the budget for the fiscal year 2027. The total estimated expenditure budget, 124 million and change. For the general fund and 17 million change for the water and sewer enterprise funds, for a total fiscal year 2027 estimated expenditure amount of 141.5 and change $million. This preliminary estimate of expenditures and revenues has been prepared based on fiscal year 2026 local aid estimates. As you know, the final recommendations will not be available from the legislators until much later in our budget cycle, at which time we will have to revisit our revenue and expenditure estimates. The governor will likely not finalize the upcoming fiscal year budget estimates until the fall, as it usually is the usual practice. And just to understand, historically, before we took over the finances, what used to happen in years past, different administrations, is they'd come here with an unbalanced budget. So it would be structurally deficited budget, and then they just put it in here to make everybody happy politically, go through the finance committee process, and then go into town meeting and have a budget that's unbalanced and have chaos. What we try to do is be very conservative so that we, as numbers come in, we're able to actually increase budgets and ask rather than have to make cuts or to pass something and then make cuts in the middle of the year, or have budget freezes that are just not great budgeting practices. We have an independent audit that's done every year. One of the things that's and as well as we're rated with our bond rating. Those are independent companies internationally that look at us and talk about the budgeting practices, and that sort of secures us to where we are. And not to get into the whole thing, but that's a really important aspect of having a good foundation to be able to borrow money, do playgrounds, water and sewer, those type of things, that allows us to get borrowing costs that much less, that actually puts tax dollars to better use and more efficient. Estimates for the fiscal year 2027 tax revenues have been calculated based on the Proposition 2.5 increase on the tax levy, as well as estimates of new growth provided by the Deputy Assessor. The local receipts such as motor vehicle excise, local room and meal excise licenses and permits, fines, etc. continue to be have been estimated conservatively. We will be reviewing an estimate as we go further through the current fiscal year. There are challenges in preparing the estimates and expenditures in this budget, such as townwide fixed cost increases. So to talk about some of the things to be concerned about that are unknowns. Health insurance, the rates have not been finalized by the provider. The town can expect that the rate will be set within the next few months. We've made a conservative estimate based on the current enrollment. We will have to revisit our estimate later in the budget cycle. Trash hauling disposal, the town contracted the new trash hauling vendor budgeting in fiscal year 2026, and the incineration contract has been extended through fiscal 2029, with hauling and tipping fees increasing annually. The cost of waste collection continues to increase, and that's a cost that's 100% borne on the town of Saugus. Unlike other communities where they have a trash fee to pick up, for pickup and for incineration or bringing it to a landfill. In addition, the cost of disposal of recycled material continues to increase and is impacted by contamination charges. We will continue to monitor this budget for any fluctuations in tonnage, and we'll consider making adjustments later in the budget cycle. And the other, I know a lot of you had questions. We are trying to pick up trash today. Some of the streets that are more narrow may be difficult. They'll have to go back maybe tomorrow or later today. But having 2 days delay would put us significantly much more difficult to get all the trash picked up. So we made the decision, and the company was, encouraging it to go out today and resume as we're planning to do on the 1 day delay. Interesting, what I did find out is that this week is the least amount of trash that's for every community in Massachusetts or this area. For, I guess the reasons are we had a holiday, so there was a pickup on Saturday, and because of school vacation week, so it's the least amount of trash. So that I guess may help in some ways. Pension contributions, the pension appropriation for FY27 is in the amount of $6 million and change. This is an increase from the amount appropriated in fiscal 26 of almost $250,000 as shown on the most recent funding schedule prepared by PARAC and voted by the Saugus Retirement Board. The funding schedule is based on an actual valuation completed on January 1st, 2025, and reflects a 4.22% increase in fiscal years 26 through 29, with the final amortization payment being made in fiscal 2030 to fully fund the pension. This is 2 years longer than the previously funding schedule that reflected the final amortization payment being made in fiscal 29. So they extended out to 2 years that we were on. Through public discussions with public officials, we have advised in the recommendation of the town's fiscal advisory board and bond rating agency that the funds become available for changes in the pension funding schedule. Funds will be likely appropriated to the OPEB trust. This will reduce the amount of unfunded liability associated with these benefits, included on the financial statement, which is a significant contributor to maintaining a AA+ bond rating. Regional school assessment. Vocational education, inclusive of Northeast Regional Vocational Tech School and Essex Tech, North Shore Tech is budgeted at $2.9 million and change based on an estimated numbers provided by DESI and our minimum required contribution. As you know, enrollment information, which can be can have an impact on our assessment, is not confirmed by DESI until April 2026. In October 2026, we will receive the final enrollment numbers from Essex North North Shore Tech, of the number of Saugus students they have accepted and attending their school. Northeast Metropolitan Regional Vocational School will have their budget voted by the school committee in March of 2026 and determine our assessment at that time. Adjustments may be required to be made according to the fiscal 27 estimate. Estimated assessments reflect 12% increase on the actual fiscal 26 assessments. The construction of the Northeast Voc School is well underway and nearing completion. This is a Massachusetts School Building Authority approved construction project in a little over $300 million based on the most recent debt information provided by Northeast Region. Our share of existing debt service for fiscal 2027 is almost $800,000 a year, an increase of 225 and change from fiscal year 2026. This amount has been included in the vocational educational assessment budget. As you know, the amount of debt service will be assessed to communities in the district for the construction project and a fluid number based on enrollment. As our enrollment changes each year, so will the amount that we are required to pay. At this time, Northeast Regional Vocational is estimating Saugus enrollment in fiscal 2027 at 121 students. And I think we've talked about this down. Our average when we started this was 196, I think, over a 6-year period. Then when we went into this, we seem to be not getting as many students admitted there, although it did go up 2 students this year. 4. So that's a fluid number. So if we get back up to where we were, obviously it's going to increase, but they're going to be doing mostly all their borrowing will be out there and will be assessed at into the future fiscal budgets. And I guess that, just to understand, that is a draw of money that, we talk about having a source of funding, that we don't have a source of funding. So that money is going to educate our kids in Saugus because that's a part of that school system, it's a public school. But again, that's money that has to come from somewhere. So that obviously has
questions.
Sure.
On the construction costs,
Yeah.
do you have any idea when we'll have a final cost for the town of Saugus? This year it's going to be $776,000. Do you have any idea when it?
So we don't, and part of it is because what it talks about is that there's, every time, so they've reduced our students, so it's actually less than what we estimated. But if we get back up to having the amount of students we've always had, historically, then the construction is a fluid number, so it's based on how many students. So right now, it all looks good because we have, we're only allowing, I think, 18 a year to get into the school. You know what I mean? So I think it might went up a little bit now, but historically, we had, I think, an average of almost 200 students in the school. Now we're at 18 times 4. It's a much lower number. You're talking like 80 or whatever students, where we used to have 200.
So could that number go up drastically?
Drastically.
For the new school?
Yeah. And then just to take that part of it along, and Jeff talks about this all the time, when we get the operating budget, when the school opens, proportionally, they're going to be more students, so we're going to get more students just proportionally because it's going to hold more of the capacity. So the operating budget to operate the school is going to be much more, because it's going to be based on a bigger number with more students. So that's another thing that we're going to have to budget for.
Once the school opens, does the construction budget couple with the operating budget, or does one get eliminated?
Separate.
Okay.
So we get
Two separate items, but
But are they gonna run in tandem, and then we're gonna have to pay for both, or does the construction budget cease and then the
Both.
operating?
you gotta pay for
Two
both.
separate, yeah.
So
One will peel off.
technically, you'll probably do a debt exclusion. You'll have to do a debt exclusion for the capital piece.
Right.
And then you do an operational override to pay for the additional operating costs.
Yeah, because all that stuff, everybody says, because no one thinks about it, but that stuff squeezes the budget. It's just like that we talked about the, hauling and incineration. That's, that increase, those increases, it keeps squeezing and squeezing on the budget. I think we're at a place now where we weren't 15 years ago for sure, but I think everybody's got to understand that. You have to have, sort of a source of funding, or you have to then say, okay, where are we going to take the money from? Again, like everybody, I think visualizes and talks about is that we have a, one pie, and everybody's gonna share that pie. So it's a matter of, trying to figure out where that money comes from, because these are more costs and increased costs that are somewhat significant, like we talked about the health insurance. You have to figure out where you're gonna make cuts and reduce and try to make things more efficient.
So, Mr. Town Manager?
Yeah.
So when do we go out to the public and ask for a debt override? That's where we need to start. We don't know what that,
We don't know how much we're
how
asking
many,
for.
yeah, we don't know how much we're asking for.
Well, I think
And we have no source of funds for these increases in expense.
So I think, in theory, you could go, and I think other communities, you could go out and put a not to exceed, debt exclusion. This is what we know the minimum would be, and this is what the maximum. So you could, the selectmen could take a vote, say we want this on the ballot, and say, not to exceed a certain amount. We know it's, what the amount, the less is and what the thing is. But I don't think you're ever
I thought you
gonna.
had to state an amount. I didn't think you could give a range. I thought we could go like.
Well, no, I think you could authorize it, and then we don't have to, it can be authorized by the public, and then we just don't use it all.
Yeah.
I think that there's a way to do that, and I
That
think,
might be a harder sell. if you
What
go
are we
to
looking
the-
at for a range?
so, right now, we're at 7 something, it could be, I guess, all the way up to 2 million, yeah. So that goes, if we went to 200 people a year, right, just for this construction thing, we figured it out, if we went to 200, average of 200, I think we're closer towards the north of, north of 1.5 million, it's close to,
And we don't know the operational override yet because it's not over.
Right.
Exactly.
So those things are squeezing everything. We did, put a little bit of money aside. Everybody wants to spend money on the saver, you know what I mean? I think I get criticized for that, it's good or bad, but the money disappears pretty quick. I always said when I first started here, Wendy and I, like, if you have a savings, if you don't save the money, then it's not really a savings, right? If you save the money and spend it somewhere else, it's not really a savings. But I think that's something that we've talked about. Our own schools are talking, I don't think it's sustainable what they're asking for without an override here. Maybe you have a community, I can give you a list of all the communities, we're all familiar with it, and the amounts that they're asking for. And, as, I think we were talking earlier before the meeting, a lot of communities have passed overrides for their,
It's not enough.
it's not even enough, they're still having cuts after the override.
Linfield.
Yeah. So, cities are having overrides, which is sort of unheard of, I think Baldwin's got one, right? So you've had them everywhere, it's not sustainable. So to think that like Saugus that couldn't pay a bill 15 years ago, all of a sudden now is gonna be able to sustain, and I think we talked a little bit about this offline, but like the schools ask of 2 $3 million. My question, I'm a finance guy, right? And Wendy, we talk about like, what's the ask, what's the projection in 5 years of what they're asking? Because it's not gonna be 2.9 million, it's gonna be 3.2 million, is gonna be the thing, and then whatever other costs they haven't talked about. That's why, there's no way that that's even sustainable. And that's just, I think, contractual obligation.
I think most residents would probably be for it, so long as if they can see the benefits such as a fire station, such as the schools.
Well, salaries is difficult.
I think.
Overrides are different than debt exclusions.
I think you can't do them all and wrap it all together. It'll never pass. You have so many seniors and so many people in this town that are on fixed incomes that simply can't absorb the cost of it. So we have to prioritize what are the priorities that we can go to the community and ask for.
Specifically for the seniors, they want the fire, they would directly benefit from the third fire station.
Agreed, but then when you couple in, if we need to go for $2 million or $3 million override towards operational for the schools, and you add that in, and then you add in other pieces of the vote.
So I think
They say,
historically,
why do I need a vote?
It's too much.
so I think that historically, the difficult thing is, I think that historically, debt exclusions are something people can get a hand because they see a plan, they see it buying something and it rolls off. Operating costs for salaries and raises and increases that made people then start judging whether those were reasonable, whether they were reckless, irresponsible, and that there's no source of funding for it. And I think those become difficult to explain to the public. But again, who's going to lead that?
I've said this since the first time I came on the committee, on the board, and sitting through these budget meetings. What the worst part of the budget process is the schools have Schedule 19, and they're not responsible for their own health insurance and pension contributions.
Close to $30 million.
So when they turn around and they do their annual budget, and they ask for 8.2% increase, they're not asking for 8.2%, they're asking for 8.2% plus the increase in Schedule 19. So it's probably more like 12 to 14%. Our total levy, including your growth, is budgeted to collect $2.4 million. They're asking for 2.8 on baseline, not even Schedule 19. So the rest of the town is minus $400,000 in revenue to run the rest of the town. It's not a sustainable model. I think the school should have their pot of money, which is everything, including health and pension. So when they make a decision to hire someone part-time or full-time, benefits or non-benefits, they'll be more cognizant of the cost associated with bringing somebody on that's qualifies for benefits. Whereas now, they bring on a teacher, or bring on an ELA, they bring them on as a teacher, they only look at the fixed cost of their budget, and they don't even think about out here, the pension and the health insurance. And
So we have to sort of.
right now, my firm, we're looking at 14.5%
Yeah.
increase in health insurance.
So one of the things that we have to do, for Wendy and I, is when we look at this budget, we have to be conservative even with like health insurance, because if we pass the budget and we have a certain dollar amount that we're gonna pay for health insurance, and after July 1st, come September, the school hires 10 more people on health insurance that we don't know about, or didn't, and that happens all the time.
Yeah.
There's 10 health insurance that get sent over here. So $30,000, $35,000 for a family, but we get hit with 10 of them we didn't plan on. We have to be able to have an ability to adjust to that.
And we pay 90%.
But I think, anyway, I think that the point is that, and I always say this and people don't love to hear it, that, Wendy and I are the ones that have to worry about this every day, right? We sleep and breathe it. I worked here as a police officer, been here a long time, you guys been here. We've had the fire stations closed intermittently, we've had layoffs in the 80s, the teachers, the fire, police, the library, all these things that go on. Everybody shows up for a few meetings, and that's great, they have a lot of authority, like town meeting or the selectmen, but it's something you gotta manage and be responsible for it. So whatever we plan to do or spend, we have to have a management plan behind it. Everybody just wants to spend because then they go home and go to bed and they worry about their jobs. This is what our job is, to make sure that the town operates okay, and I don't think we had a lot of pride in that or success in that for the last 40 years, you know what I mean? And I think that we're in a place that it's all great politically to say, spend money, do this, do that, but there has to be somebody that's sort of in charge of dealing with those issues. But these are real stresses for us, because there's a lot of costs that keep squeezing in every time someone says they want to do something. There's a worry unless we have a source of funding, like, fire station, okay, we need a source of funding. The schools asking for this kind of money. Every other community around us in the whole state is doing overrides to be able to fund that. Some here, no one's even saying a word about it. You have union people with a laptop in school committee meetings directing parents what to say and what to do. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Why don't they talk about that, if they truly need this kind of money, how that's gonna be funded? Can't be funded by the rest of the town, it's not sustainable, as Jeff just talked about. So I think those are the sort of things you have to worry about, health insurance increase, all the stuff that every other community has to worry about. But I think we have to sort of make sure we have a more, I think, look at what we're actually gonna look to try to, look at these things, these big ticket items. We're gonna look at the schools, the fire station, the vocational school. We have to try to figure out how we're gonna manage those things, I think more deliberately at this point.
Go ahead.
I don't think there's gonna be one avenue that we take, but if I remember correctly, our commercial revenue decreased this year and our residential went up. Is that correct?
The projection for the rates.
Yeah.
Right,
For the
so
rates.
we're taking in less commercial tax than we were last year.
It's based on value, that's not necessarily.
Yeah.
It's probably consistent, because the rates went down, but values went up.
So I mean, can we develop some type of strategy where we could potentially bring new business in, or instead of just going into places on Route 1, throwing a coat of paint on the walls, doing like what, I know it's a chicken shop, but Raising Cane's did, they knocked the building down, they put up a new building, I mean, that,
That
definitely.
increases the levy, yeah.
Yeah.
We try to encourage that, and that's why I think the different thing, not to get into the thing, but even like the marijuana, them creating, and Mike, I think, pointed this out, is them building a brand new building from scratch is better than somebody renovating a building. In other words, because now we're gonna increase the levy, which then increases for you know what I mean, forever. It's
There was
growth.
room of flowers.
Right, I think
Yes.
that's like money.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, so there's cells and things, that's why I think, you know, for the most part, you know, we're pro-development, but it has to be smart development, control, people following rules. I'm a big fan of it because that's what the viability of the town is, the new growth, and being able to bring that into the roll so that annually it produces revenue for the town on an annual basis. That's the survival of the town.
Well, I tried to do that on the zoning frame, apply so much commercial versus residential, but I changed the zoning, town meeting over it, you know.
Well, some of the zoning actually kind of, in my opinion, impeded that, especially with like setbacks and things of that nature. I mean, there's definitely, I think, room for improvement on that, and I know that you've been working towards, you know, a planner and things of that nature, so it'd be nice to see that come online and potentially bring more.
And I'll jokingly say, it's a balance, right? Because when we bring a planner in, guess what the planner wants to do? Wants to develop and bring residential stuff, because that's the state's thing, and the residents, so there's a balance of what, you know what I mean, like, you go to a surgeon, the surgeon wants to do surgery, they don't want, you know what I mean, they don't necessarily want to do physical therapy, they want to do surgery, you know, you go to a dentist, they want to do dental work. And I think, so we have, you know, there's a balance of how much development, how fast, and I think that's sort of, everything's reactive, so I think we've done a good job of bringing on, and we've done plenty of housing, we had a housing production plan, and we did above and beyond, and then all of a sudden the state comes out and changes the rules, and it puts us at a position that, well, what do you mean, we just did all this? We wouldn't have done any of that if we knew we were gonna be forced to do something, we would have made that part of the forced part of it. So I think, yeah, I
It's not
agree.
just that, like right now, the way the environment is, I mean, my firm, we work with a lot of developers ourselves. Commercial's not an attractive option for companies to be building commercial, I mean, we have two of the biggest commercial developers in the United States as clients, and they're shifting their focus. They're trying to acquire properties to shift them to a residential footprint, because commercial, nobody's opening up brick and mortar stores. It's just not a thing anymore. It's small footprints, if you're lucky, get small footprints, smaller, do everything like, you know, like the Plaza's a good thing because it has a lot of smaller type buildings, but back in the day, that was unographic. It was one building, one property. Those are becoming dinosaurs. It's not a thing. In lab space and things like that, they're going to places where the tech credits are there, and the places where they get their tax advantages and tax savings, which are built into like the Cambridges and those areas, the outliers.
Yeah,
So
Burlington did a good job of that years ago.
yeah, and we have to get creative. I like, you know, Mike said about the zoning, you know, to try to, at least at best, try to get mixed use. At least, at worst case scenario, it stops people from coming here that just want to put up residential buildings, because we don't want that, we
I don't
agree.
think a developer's gonna touch anything that's not mixed use.
Right.
You know?
Right, and it's just.
That was
it's-
because of 2008, because of COVID, because they went belly up on a lot of their projects,
Well,
because,
yeah, but the other piece that really killed us was COVID.
yeah.
So many people went remote, and so many companies went remote, and then even the companies that are trying to force people back on remote, the people are fighting back, getting doctor's notes and psychological pays, and they're not winning. They're not winning the fights. So there's a lot of empty space, a lot of empty commercial building. I think people are gun shy to expand in commercial. That's the risk we have.
Yeah, I
That's the
mean,
reason
and I
why.
agree, I mean, I think part of it is, I mean, I think it was brain salt, and it gets criticized, but it's interesting because I'm pro-development, right? But it's what the rules are. In other words, I'm pro-development as long as people are following the rules, and who sets the rules is town meeting. So if these are what the rules are, they need to follow them. And a lot of times that may not happen, but then I get when we try to make sure that the rules are enforced, I sort of get criticized that I'm anti-development. And we're not. Development, smart development of what the rules and the plan is,
Right.
actually helps the town. It's the viability of how we can fund and how we are in the position we are now as a community.
And that's why the noise on Facebook when people write, oh, no more apartments, I can't believe it. Listen, I can't dictate as a selectman to a person who owns a parcel of land, you can't sell that land to a developer. You have to sell it to us so we can make a green space. Like, that's not how it works. The town doesn't dictate who you're gonna sell to. And bottom line is, you're gonna sell to the highest bidder. Who's the highest bidder? Someone who's gonna develop residential property.
Well, the other thing that you get criticized for too on social media is how come we have all those empty spaces on Route 1? Well, we're not the
Well,
property
landlords
owner.
haven't adjusted
We're not the
their mindsets.
landowner, we're not, I don't know what they're asking for rates
They still think
and.
$50, $60 a square foot is the thing up on Route 1.
Exactly,
It's not.
but we have no control over what gets built over there on Route 1 in terms of, you know, the empty storefronts and, you know, who goes in there, except if it needs an S2 permit or a license from us.
Right, and I think part of it is that, back in the day, and I think our continued policy or thoughts are, is that it's okay to be diversified on Route 1, because when we had all just retail does a certain thing and attracts a certain thing, whereas if you have some more commercial or mixed use, I think there is something to be said about having that diversity for revenue and income that comes into the town. But, you know, I think it's always a change, and it's stressful.
Last comment on this, so we can keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I do think that the opportunity for us as a town is to work creatively with the mall and try to get mutually agreeable, and even if it means we have to do some type of tax concession or whatever, get some type of mutually agreeable thing there so that doesn't become something more than just a massive residential with a mix of commercial. Maybe see if they could, if there's an appetite to do some type of creative development there. You know, whether it's more something on like a mini Market Street type environment. It's a big parcel.
Yeah, that's
They
the only
realize-
parcel that you can get away with. Everybody like the
Right.
Hilltop was never that
No,
size.
no, this one's 70-something acres.
The only one,
compared to
right, the only one we
100
have,
acres that-
the only one we have that's actually, that you set up is Home Depot.
Yeah.
And I think that was done by mistake or
Yeah,
something, you know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah.
that's like, when you have other pieces of businesses within.
But I think
the
the town could look into the
Yeah.
potential, because they're the ones that keep getting a lower assessed value. They keep fighting their value down in Simon because of the number of empty stores.
Yeah.
But it's a win for us because, first of all, the type of clientele that's bringing in on the bus line is not conducive to, doesn't help our police and fire department, number one. Number two, if you put a stable type thing like a Market Street in that place, it's gonna attract quality residents and quality people to visit here. So I do think that that's something, that's the only parcel.
Well, anyway, we've been on like Assembly Mall, all
Yeah.
these places, it's incredible what they
Yeah.
have. They have volleyball courts,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff like in the middle, and it's sort of a, you go over to one over in Watertown, there's another one, I don't know what that one's called.
Supposedly Simon
Somerville.
stopped debt service on the mall. They've had multiple letters of non-performance on their mortgage.
Yeah.
Simon,
The stick and pin on Square One Mall is owned by 3 different people. Macy's owns their own.
Sears.
Sears,
Yes.
and then you have the mall in the middle.
right. But honestly, even if Macy's, even if they want to try to keep their anchor stores, so be it, and figure out what they're gonna do. And you build everything else around it, knock down the sides, build everything around it, and then they're gonna have to be forced to
It's
make a
funny
decision.
that parking garage is half owned by Macy's.
Yeah.
Square One Mall.
Right.
The property line goes right through the
It's
middle.
crazy.
But if you go after the biggest shareholder in that,
Yeah.
the other two will fall once
Yeah.
the numbers are
I
right.
mean, especially if the numbers work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, what Sears is doing no good. I mean, they lost out on Apex.
Yeah.
So I do think that's something we need to keep on the horizon, because A, they're one of our bigger taxpayers, and B, it's an opportunity that's not gonna be duplicated on Route 1. There's not another parcel of that magnitude where an opportunity would come up for us to maybe make it work for us financially too.
I absolutely think we need to have further discussion, especially on what you were discussing, as well as coming up with a strategy, not just for the Volk School, but also for the public safety building on the west side. And when we're gonna go before the voters, and I know we had that big presentation last year, about the feasibility study and the different locations, but I think that's super important that we have those discussions, because I think we're gonna have to go out to the public sooner rather than later. I mean, if it's right now almost $780,000 coming out of our budget, next year it's gonna be over $1 million, and we're not gonna be able to sustain that within our operating budget. Want to move forward, Mr. Town Manager?
Well, other insurances, I think similar issues, based on increases, also capital improvements. I think we've talked about both of those issues. Estimated fixed costs mentioned above don't take into consideration the contractual wage adjustments. All agreements have been settled through 2027 for us on the town side. And this budget reflects contractual obligations. preparation of this and any other budget, there are concerns in those items that can vary in many changes due to circumstances that occur during the fiscal year. Some items that can continue to be a concern are building maintenance costs, utilities, fuel, motor fuel, waste collection, recycling, vehicle maintenance, and health insurance. As a result of the supply chain issues and the rising costs of goods and services such as motor fuel, electricity, heating fuel, we will continue to monitor these items and may have to adjust accordingly. As we have seen in the past, circumstances can change dramatically, affecting the budgetary estimates for revenues and expenditures. We went through this through the pandemic. We were fortunate that we didn't have to have layoffs or any significant interruptions in delivering services to the public. Steps continue to be taken to minimize the impact on the budget, stabilize services for the residents, and maintain current staffing levels. In partnership with ourselves, the Finance Committee and Town Meeting, we have been able to present a balanced budget at each annual town meeting and preserve our current AAA plus bond rating. As we prepare for fiscal 27, fiscal year 27, estimated revenues and expenditure budgets, many of these same concerns exist as when the fiscal 26 budget was approved, and we've been talking about that. Obviously, the estimated revenues are not increasing at the same rate as the expenses. Fixed costs, as Jeff was just talking about, increases and contractual obligations continue to absorb the Proposition 2.5 and new growth projections. Our estimates are based on historical trend and use of the incoming source of revenue. In addition to estimated appropriation expenditures, this budget contains estimates for the items such as state assessments, overlay, cherry sheet offsets based on recommendations from the governor. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, those items are itemized on a sources and use of funds document, which we're going to go over under the heading use of funds. The school department's fiscal 2027 estimated budget recommendation is $35,768,535, an increase of $1 million over the fiscal year 26 budget voted by town meeting, which again we talked about earlier. Doesn't include the Schedule 19 increases for the cost, which I think are close to $30 million of Schedule 19, which is unheard of in any other community. And I think we talked about it, some people don't even associate that. Those are bills that are directly costs of the schools that are sent directly here that they never see and never pay. The one appropriation that is not included on the source and use document is the snow and ice deficit. The cost of snow and ice events is always a concern, as any time we can have a snow or sanding, salting event is event in the upcoming weeks. As you've seen this winter, we are back to a normal New England winter where snow events are occurring on a weekly basis. As this budget process moves forward, there are areas this estimated budget that will continue to evolve and change, such as state aid, local revenue estimates, state estimates, and other fixed costs. So I think that's another segue to talk about the snow and ice, right? So the snow and ice costs of 5 or 6 years ago, when last time we've had winters, is much different than what the cost is now. So that's why we have money in free cash to be able to pay for our expenditures within the year that we incur. But I can tell you, we don't know the numbers, obviously we're processing, but I can tell you that it's pretty significant. Much different cost than we've experienced in the past years. We haven't had a lot of snow or not a significant amount of snow and ice events. That's going to be a concern. We've been lucky enough that we haven't had huge expenses in the last probably 6, maybe even 7 years. And we've been able to use that money that we have sitting there to fund other things, like capital, pay-as-you-go, funding OPEB, putting money in stabilization, target stabilization for health insurance and different things. Vocational school costs, money in the stabilization for the schools, for the students, stabilization fund. These are concerns this year for sure. We have a couple, I think Wednesday was tomorrow, we're supposed to get a little dusting or 1 inch. Friday, we're supposed to get some more snow, a little more significant, see how it plays out. But those are definite concerns of things of how we pay for it. People that I'm sure forget, but before we took over, they would actually illegally carry over a deficit from snow and ice, and then have to raise it in the next budget, meaning you'd have to cut $1 million now, or $2 million, whatever you've spent, in the next year, so you'd already be starting off with a cut. So we definitely put money in and hold money to be able to pay for events like this, and if we don't, we end up funding all these other things that I think will help later on and help stabilize the town.
Mr. Town Manager, would it be possible to get Schedule 19 and have this split between the town side and the school side?
Sure, well, the Schedule 19 is the school side, that's what the town's paying.
Right, so could we
Yep.
get a copy of that and compare last year to this year? So
Well,
that
this
when
year
we
will
have
be
the
an
con-
estimate, yeah, it will be an
Yeah,
estimate.
exactly, but when we have the conversation, just to explain it in numbers.
Sure.
I have a question
Yeah.
regarding the Schedule 19, but the health insurance with the schools. What's your thought on maybe giving back what the schools take care of their own health insurance and give them the money?
So I think that, you know, I've heard this,
Every year.
I've heard this a lot, it comes up,
I know.
everybody talks about, the problem is that you're giving, and I don't wanna criticize, but when we did the school override, right, the debt exclusion for the schools, when we built the schools, people supported the schools. I had, lots and lots of people come to me and say, if you're in charge of the money, and you're in charge of the construction, I'm gonna vote for it, but if the schools are, I'm not gonna. I don't know if there's a lot of confidence, so the more money you give, it's more money to be mismanaged.
But they would think twice about hiring all these people because they have to factor in now the cost of health insurance.
I think that's, and I think logically that's what would happen, but I don't think that I don't think that's the way they think. I think that this is, their budget is driven by, and I don't wanna, I wanna be honest because I've said this publicly, I say it when the schools are here. Our budget's done differently, right? We have police and fire, DPW, everybody, building maintenance. We have meetings that are in a closed room, you know what I mean? Because it's a management decision, right? We sit down, they'd love to have more money, right? So the police would love to have it, but I don't put it in a budget and say, I don't have them put in a budget saying they want $2 million more than what they get, or everybody's gonna die. You're not gonna be able to get a detective to come investigate when your house is broken into. Well, the fire department wanted $2 extra million. So we sort of figure out what we can do for that year. The problem with the school is they're just asking for money, right? That's an ask. That isn't even realistic. And what happens is that there's an erosion of confidence. Even though, you know, they may be underperforming in general, there's also this other thing with employees that work for the schools and a sentiment or a message that says, well, then we got our budget cut. It's not a cut, it's some ask that they have. And you do that with the police and fire, everybody wouldn't feel safe in the community. If they said, we want this, and the manager's cutting it, like, oh, the manager's cutting the budget. No, these are just asks, and it's like, we have to balance the budget. So I worry about the more money they have, the more it becomes problematic. And I'll give you another example, and people, I think you guys were surprised a few years ago when we were talking about DPW work here in the treasurer's office, right? So we're one of the only communities around that manages the water bills in the water department within the treasurer collector's office, rather than the DPW. I'm sure before my time, for probably even your time, at some point, the DPW managed it and probably got mismanaged, so then they brought it into the accounting office, into, you know, the treasurer's office to make sure that, you know, things were being run correctly. So I think that would be my concern, is you're giving more money. I think years ago, there was the school department overspent about $1 million when Ed Collins was here. And everybody just said, okay, they had to come up with the money, like, in other words, and they put the town in a tailspin. But that would be the worry in that sense. I don't know, maybe there's a presentation that we could do in the future, like, that would show what the actual costs are they're getting. I mean, we did it a few years back, and I think most of the money that comes into the school, because they're the biggest department, it's somewhere around 67, 68% of everything that comes in goes to education. In other words, that includes the charter schools, that includes
The Schedule
vocational.
19, why don't we
Yeah.
like advertise that for
Yeah.
the newspapers?
Yeah.
So people get it, because people don't.
No, not even superintendents. But Jeff joked about this earlier. Every superintendent I meet with, I've been through a lot of them, I sit down and say, and back then it was like $40,000 for a starting salary for a teacher. And they say, well, if you have $40,000 left in your budget, how many teachers can you have? And they say, oh, I can hire one. And I said, well, it's another $25,000 at that time for health insurance. How can you do that if you don't have that money?
So here's one suggestion I would recommend, right? So we have the sources and use of funds.
Yeah.
What if you were to break out, right now, we show $148 million of use of funds, and only showing $35 million of school operating budget. What if you were to break out Schedule 19 as a separate use of funds, separate on the source and use document, so you can add the two numbers together easily? And if that gets public, it's a public document, it's on the website, then someone can easily eyeball the investment we're making into the schools. Because right now, we're showing 35 million. I look at that and I say, well,
That's nothing.
$148 million budget, you're only putting 35 million into the schools, and you wonder why the schools are in the toilet. But in reality, 35 million is probably 65, 70 million dollars
Yeah.
in total.
And that's
Add
not,
everything
that's
else.
not grants, like Title I and all that,
Right.
what they're actually expending that
That's-
isn't in an operating.
That's fine,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, for this document, we're almost doing ourselves a disservice and fighting against ourselves by looking at a whole dollar number, pure just operating.
Well, and you probably recall back a bunch of years ago where, Frank, this is interesting for you to know, is that at one point, we had this argument, went on for like 2 years, where our budget, they'd say, they'd have the union people or whoever, they analyze the budget and say, oh, well, this is, the schools are only, budget is only going up 4% and the towns is going up 6%, the town side. Well, they were including our increases, the bills that we're paying, the $30 million, that increase, they were using against us paying their bill, like as if it was our budget. You know what I mean? It was so disproportionate and out of context that they didn't even know. I mean, but yeah, that might be an idea.
Wendy, one last suggestion for next meetings, for next year's budget, but just for the purpose of this, if you can side by side the prior year, current year on the sources and uses, so we can see a comparative of the 2 years' activity, I think that will also show the significant increase year over year on that specific line item. The next, when we break out Schedule 19, and we also break out the investment in the schools.
I think
The
if you
investment in
can do it-
schools alone will go up $1 million.
I think if we can do it this year, it'd be more helpful.
Yeah, well, that's fine too. But I just think it's helpful whenever I do anything, I like to see the comparative. But I think it's gonna help with the narrative for people to understand the true investment that's being made into the schools. It's significant.
Well, it's not a blame game.
We all want, no, but we want.
We all want the schools to.
We want the schools to succeed. A successful school system is one of the pillars that makes a community. But the problem is, throwing money at a problem isn't always the solution. There has to be a concrete plan, and I'm not sure that we're there yet. And that's where I think we're falling a little short.
So how do we bridge the gap between like the schools and the town that's within the confines of our charter? Because I mean, we say this here, how do we get it into the hands of the school committee to devise that plan that we need? Because I'm totally for the plan, I mentioned it to them personally.
Yeah.
Saying that like we need something, that can be executed upon. And I even told them, as I mentioned to you before, like front load with some easy stuff, so, you build a rapport with us, but like, do we have a joint meeting between the school committee and the selectmen saying like, listen, you guys are asking for more money, like, our hands are tied?
Well, I think my opinion is that's all political. I don't think that works. We don't run the schools, we don't have authority over the school, and it's not the school committee, it's you hire a superintendent, right? You hire a manager to manage the job and the biggest job the manager has is finances. And people could say, in delivering services. You have to hire somebody, or you have to have somebody in place that can, sort of make those changes and come up with those plans by hiring curriculum directors or whatever, and have different people that they come up with a plan. They're just, right now, the argument is, we need more money, so let's have a conversation about, we're gonna say, we want this money, but then we're gonna make up a thing about why we want this extra money. We don't have this money to stop.
So how do we change that conversation though, I guess would be my question.
I think that they have to do it over there, they run the schools, and I think they have to have leadership and have, like, if you get a state, Jeff talked about, and I don't want to get too far into the weeds with the schools and what they should do, but I think that the schools got a report back in 2019 or 2020, whatever it was, that was done by retired superintendents, so it's done soft. And they identified about the money and the allocation of, they had enough money, but it was where they were spending it. And that the document disappeared, it's not even online, it just disappeared. So I think that part of it is difficult, but I think, in my opinion, right, as a parent that has kids, has experienced the school systems, I think that the parents and the people, we should be demanding better education. Like, we're here fighting about money. The money doesn't equal better education. Like, you know what I mean? So my thing is that the pressure of the conversation should be brought to the school department. And that's what they should be looking at, not like saying, blaming somebody and say, oh, let's spend money, like the town doesn't give enough money. Like, that's what we're dealing with now, where we're trying to talk about, how do we make sure that people understand that this isn't really the case? Where the direction should be, we should be demanding higher standards, higher expectations for our education system, because everybody wants the education system to get better. We just don't know how to, I think that we need the leadership and the direction from the school department.
I think that's what the parents are demanding, but I think they're seeing it as a money issue over anything else, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is how do we change that perspective and say like, we need to start looking within the school as opposed to.
Published in the schedule.
Could you say something?
Nice.
We had a superintendent who became a principal, who became a math teacher, and now he's a superintendent and has a contract extended. I don't think there's any more reason to be looking, so.
I think you talked about it at the top meeting.
Yeah,
We have
I
a,
asked a simple question.
Yeah, I said that at the beginning.
Do you have enough money to run your budget? He got up and said yes. So,
You gave them a layup. I mean,
I mean, obviously the increase has to do with contractual salaries, it's not, there's no educational plan even here. I mean, I don't want to, I think we're getting too far, I don't want to just.
We're definitely getting in the weeds, but the point
We
is,
support, I mean, not everybody's here to say that we don't care about the schools, we don't care about the students.
that's
We don't
not-
care about plowing streets and all, like, it's all, that's the crazy talk.
I know.
You know what I mean?
But because you're not on social media,
Yeah.
I understand, and that's fine, and that's the reason why you're probably more sane than I am. But in reality, you know, perception becomes reality. And the more false narratives are out there about lack of investment in the schools, to Frank's point, and things like that, people start believing. And unless you're someone in finance that understands the nuances of the budget and how things are derived, I really think the false narrative becomes, but that's why I think you saw a big movement towards town meeting, and they need to be educated. These younger town meeting members, these young family members, I'm so excited to see young people getting involved, but are they getting involved because they think they're gonna go to town meeting and change how money is allocated, or are they getting involved because they really wanna be involved in the town? I think if they're educated,
Well, who's directing, who's educating?
yeah, and that's the point. I think they need to be educated on the investments that are being made. I just looked at the budget for the schools from 3 fiscal years till now. You're talking $6 million worth of increases.
Not
That's
including
more,
Schedule
not
19.
including Schedule 19, that's just fixed costs. That's more than our levy went up.
Well, I think if we include the Schedule 19
That's-
in
yeah.
this report, I think.
It's gonna show a
Start
huge-
educating the
Yeah,
public.
and show comparative.
As to what they're.
can I ask
I mean, we show comparative with all the other budgets and all the detail. I have last year's right here, so I'm always comparing one with
that's
the other.
right, yeah.
I
Can I
have a
ask a
town
question
meeting member.
for Wendy? How much money is in this stabilization account that was created for the school in Richmond?
Approximately, I'm gonna guess, 3.8 million, somewhere around there. Maybe a little more, 4 million, maybe.
We're the only town that has done something that creative to help kids recover from COVID. And what have they done with that money? I went to their budget hearing and I brought this up. There's no plan. You know, if they want to do summer school, enrichment, tutoring, a whole host of ELL, they can do so much with ELL. And they claim that that's the reason why they're falling behind, but yet other communities have the same issues. The fact that they're
White
not,
males is the underperforming in
the
Saugus.
fact that they're not using that money to help kids, and the other fact is they're there, an elected body is in control of the budget. Last, I saw a vote where they let the business manager move money from salary to expenses and vice versa without the approval of the school committee. That was not, when I was on the committee, when you were on the committee, that wasn't allowed. Every transfer had to be voted by the committee. So they have let go of that authority to the business manager. And, you know, I agree with Jeff about breaking out the health insurance costs, because the parents or the new town meeting members need to be educated. They need to see that. It's a huge number, and the implications when they hire people are just are enormous. So I think when they say that the education is this $3.8 million that they're not accessing to help kids. Thank you.
Yeah, and town meeting only votes on your budget, but they only vote on the bottom line budget. So they're not getting into the detail like we get into the detail with town meeting, so
All right, you want to do the source and news stocks?
please. Hi, Wendy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for
This stuff
coming.
should go pretty quick. I mean, this is like, you know, as you guys know, this is pretty preliminary and you're talking about it.
And before we go any further, I want to thank you, Mr. Town Manager, for going through this with us, and Wendy, thank you very much.
But again, just to reiterate, I think we should probably try to figure out more deliberately, more definitively what we want to do, because we have, I think, the schools haven't talked about it, you would think they would, about their sustainability with some sort of an override, like every other community, if this is what they're looking for monies, because we can't sustain it. You could take extra money for the next 2 years, and then we'd be bankrupt, we'll lose the bond rating, we'll be in Danvers' situation, we'll be in, even like you talked about, this other communities. So, right, we'll be everywhere. And so, even with overrides, they can't sustain, because it's not sustainable, but I think, the fire station, things like that, I think we're gonna need to make a decision, what we wanna do, and the vocational expenses. Those all these things are squeezing the budget, and we're doing okay, but we can't keep taking on things that we can't fund, without taking it from other departments, so.
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members.
Good morning.
So to just take you through the source and use document, this is a document that we prepare annually when we're presenting the budget to show how the sources of the various types of revenues and expenditures being kept in balance. So the first source of funds from the general fund is the real estate and personal property taxes. So you take the prior year levy limit from fiscal year 2026, and then we add the 2.5, Proposition 2.5 increase, which for this year is $2,157,456. We estimated amount for new growth annually. That's always a very, very conservative number. We're estimating it at 500. That's usually the base where we start. You estimate that number much higher than that, and then new growth doesn't come in at that, then you've already put your budget in an operational deficit and have to make up that
Yeah, it's a mistake.
source of revenue somewhere else or make cuts.
It's a mistake to try to do it.
So in addition to that, we add the debt exclusion vote that had been passed for the Belmonte Middle School repair project, the high school middle school new construction project, and the Veterans Belmonte reconfiguration project. Those two are the most recent projects. That's about $7 million. So when you add those all together, we have property tax of approximately $95,982,000.
Now, an example is we did construction and people supported it. The vocational did it, and we don't have a source of funding for it. You wouldn't be able to move forward. It's like the fire station. We don't have support for a debt exclusion and an override from the public. You can't move forward with it.
So with the debt exclusion, I'll just reiterate that $7 million is on top of the levy. That is an exact dollar amount of debt service that's budgeted in FY27 for those three projects. It's not an estimate, it's actual debt service. And that's what a debt exclusion is. It allows you to add that amount of debt on top of your tax levy. So you're not funding it from within your tax levy. The next revenue source is the cherry sheet estimates. Our estimates right now that we've been provided is at $22.2 million. Our local receipts, we have estimated at $11.2 million. That's an approximate 7% increase over fiscal year 26.
Wendy, just a quick note, of the 11.2 million, about 5.6 million of that is excise tax,
Yes,
and 2.1 million is meals tax.
yes,
And then the other items are just a bunch of less than $1 million each.
yeah.
But $7.8 million of the 11.2 is meals tax and excise tax.
Then we have transfers from the enterprise funds for the cost that the general fund provides to the water and sewer enterprise staff. Those are the indirect costs. They're estimated at 4.5% increase right now. Once we go further along in the budget process, we'll have firmer numbers and we'll put the actuals in there, but I've estimated a 4.5% increase right now. And then we are using certified free cash for the appropriation of capital improvement for the facilities department, $500,000 and $100,000 for the Department of Public Works. So the total source of funds for the general fund is $131.5 million.
And those were already voted, those uses of free cash, right?
No, it would be
Would be voted.
in the upcoming vote of the budget. So the water enterprise fund budget right now is at $9.3 million for the operation of the water distribution system, and sewer enterprise is $7.9 million for the operation of the sewer system. That includes direct operational costs for salaries and expenses, the MWRA, the Lynn operation and maintenance costs, and debt service related to both distribution systems. So the town's budget, municipal budget for the municipal departments is $88.5 million, and the school's $35.7, so that's a total of $124,282,000. And then we have cherry sheet charges and offsets of about $6.5 million. And then we have an amount for allowance for abatements and exemptions, that's overlay, that's an offset to the amount of abatements and exemptions that may be granted by the Board of Assessors from the real or personal property tax levy. And then the offset is just the water and sewer enterprise fund for a total use of funds for the same of $148.7 million, showing that we're currently have this budget in balance at this time, based on these estimates.
Do one members have any questions for me?
So just a thing before I forget, we, as you know, one of the initiatives is trying to improve the website. So website, I think, is supposed to go live this week, the new one. So I'm sure there'll be bugs and issues with it, but I'm working on it behind the scenes, building it and whatnot, working for the last 6 months or less. But I think that should be coming up live soon and more interactive and all that. So we'll put something out there. Yeah, we're kind of a date. Snowstorm, I'm not sure where we're at.
Thank you. That's exciting.
They're stressful though. It doesn't, sorry, complaining, everybody be complaining about it, right? Every time
Complaining now,
you
so.
do something, yeah, every time you do
We'll
something.
just call it the beta version.
What's that?
We'll call it the beta version.
Yeah, there you go, test it.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm going to go through each one of the departments. I'm going to call out the name of the department. If you have any questions or comments, just ask the question, just stop me, okay? I don't think there's much to be said for the town meeting moderator. Used to get $1, now he gets nothing. For the Board of Selectmen. Town manager's budget. On page 4 of the town manager's budget, Mr. Town Manager or Wendy, under professional and technical general, the 290, is that for consultants?
Yeah, yeah, consultants and different expenses. Sure. So sometimes, like, if we have stuff that's in planning or development or something like that, sometimes that comes out of here as well.
Okay. And are we down one person in your department?
Yes.
Next is the Finance Committee.
Is there a clerk in, Madam Chair, is there a clerk in there, a line item for clerk, the Finance Committee?
There's an amount for salary,
Yep.
$5,000.
5,000?
Yeah, there's a small fund.
Okay.
Okay. And the $100,000 reserve is still in there.
Seems like peanuts now.
Do you know? But they haven't
That was a
had-
lot of money 15 years ago.
Have they ever used it?
We have, yeah. Like, we tested it out a few times.
That's it. It's perfect.
Early in your tenure.
No, I don't actually know if we did we?
Yeah.
I think we did test it out.
When was the last time?
Because it was, no, because it was like, it was a thing, honestly, when we put this in
Make sure they
here,
were legally correct.
yeah, we did that because it's a vote of the selectmen and a vote of finance committee, so
Right.
they finance, no one ever did it here before. So we sort of went through the exercise and we needed it, we did have a thing that we.
I think I did that, that was
But it was like
maybe years
controversial,
ago.
everybody said, yeah, it was a long time.
Yeah, okay, very good.
Well, we
Accountant,
wanted to make sure everybody knew procedurally that it could happen.
Wendy, are all the positions filled in accounting?
We're actually, I think, yeah, we're hiring somebody right now.
For the town.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hiring.
That's correct.
But you have somebody for that position? Or are you hiring for that position?
We're interviewing and we'll be hiring.
So stop me if there's open positions, please. Assessor's office? I'm on page 7 right now. And page 8. Treasurer collector?
Oh, I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, we have some positions there that we're filling, we're interviewing and filling. We just filled one, we just had somebody start last week.
Yep.
And then we have, I think, another one that's being filled.
Are these the principal clerk positions? Or other
I think
positions?
one of them is, and the other one is, we have an anticipated retirement.
Oh, okay.
As long as it's not Wendy in there. 10 more years.
Yeah.
She's not happy at all. I'm sure she wants to
10
retire.
more years, Wendy. Oh,
Sure.
John.
Sure. He'll go 20.
The next budget is on page 11. It's legal counsel. I just want to mention that we are going to need probably Ira's help, Mr. Town Manager, on the cable, because that's coming up in January. So we need to budget some money.
Yep.
Thank you. Next is human resources. Do we have those roles filled?
Yeah, we're interviewing now, so
Is it just one?
yes, actually it's two.
But we do have a person in HR.
Correct. What we've done, and you probably know more about it, they used to do benefits, we've moved that to the accounting office because of the shortage. Once we
Yeah.
get somebody back, it's like we're better move back.
Oh, great. We're now page 13, information technology. And we're outsourcing that. That's working well, Mr. Town Manager?
Yes.
And honestly, that's becoming more and more prevalent. IT consulting companies are the way to go.
We did it a long
Because-
time ago now.
Well, I mean, the way I see so many of my clients shift into that because it protects you. You're not relying on any one person.
Right.
The company has the backdoor policy where they keep people trained up, so if the lead person who works with you leaves, there's a pipeline of people that can fill in and you're not left.
Yeah, we could probably use somebody that would be like a help desk person, like to cover more.
They can do that too, though.
They do, we do have them do
Because I have
that, but
clients
it's not.
It's good to have them here and they can work.
I mean, they work, nothing, but it's like, there's so many hours, then like after a certain thing, then you have to wait till the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because-
So,
Now, last year you talked a little bit about cybersecurity. Is that sitting in the professional and technical job?
Yeah, some of it is there, yeah.
Maybe we could look at like a position for a high school student or somebody just out of high school that's good with tech.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
No, we're on page 14, town clerk, page 14 and 15. Any questions?
There's a position there that's open that we're advertising.
Okay, thank you for the
Elections, I'm sorry, not in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in elections. Oh, okay.
I just think
These two are
yeah,
good.
those are cool.
Yeah, now it's on some little budget line.
Okay, so it's in
Election
elections.
coordinator, yeah.
Any questions on page 16, 17?
We do have the conservation filled, right, Scott? Conservation officer?
Yeah, so let me give me 1 second, I just got an emergency.
You want to take a minute?
After the meeting. Yeah, that's okay, sorry. Anyway, so we hired, so one of the things that we've tried to do is professionalize, more professionalize the conservation in each of the departments. So I do have a Tuesday standing meeting with all the different, so we talk about development and different things and what's going on, conservation and all that. But we brought on a conservation agent, and as well as a highly educated with a master's degree clerk for the conservation and zoning board of appeals. And the conservation is also an associate plant in the planning department. So we're trying to coordinate and I think look at bringing that now as a full-time position where when Frank was here was part-time really, I think it was 19 hours a week and, summers off or whatever, you know what I mean, different things. So I think one of the things we're moving that direction. So we're still advertising a position that would oversee as a senior person, which I think will help. But we've also brought on a consultant that works 10 hours a week that's an agent in another community. That's been helping train and help identify and go on site for different things with our conservation agent. So I think that's worked out great, and we're having them integrated more with legal counsel on different issues to be able to help educate them and move that. And as you know, we've put a couple people on the conservation because we've had some people drop off, and we'll continue to do that. But the idea is to bring, I think right now is maybe the planning and engineering and conservation in those departments kind of under, like, so that there's more continuity, and we've been trying to meet with them.
Better communication.
Yeah, better communication, because I think everything was in a silo, and we've been little by little trying to bring that in, and conservation was sort of the last one that was out there, so, so we're looking at bringing on somebody that has more zoning experience in the planning department, but I think having her as the conservation that overlaps in planning is a benefit, because it's all interrelated.
So we may need to add another $1,000 under board members once we have a fifth person. We're now at the planning board on page 19. Any questions on the
Do
planning
we have a full
board?
planning board right now?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, full plan.
He's back.
I don't know, I think he's missed a couple, I don't know what's going on, but yeah, I mean, he hasn't, he's still on.
Board of Appeals, page 20.
So like I think it's something, we have a clerk that's doing both, doing both the zoning board and the conservation.
And that's the person that has the masters, you said?
Yeah, and I guess what I would say is that she has a different, changed her title because of, I think she wants to grow into, she's done conservation work in other states, and
Sure.
she's very educated, and I think she's, will be an asset, but I think we'll be able to do some growth here.
Next, we're on page 21 now, the Department of Planning and Economic Development. So we have somebody in that role now, right?
Yeah, so we overlapping, they're in the planning department, but we're in the process of trying to get somebody, I think that would be a senior person and somebody that would have more, I think, expertise in zoning, and being able to interpret zoning, but it's been challenging. I mean, they're advertising
I'm
everything.
gonna suggest that we consider bumping up the base for the senior person.
Yeah,
I looked at the salaries are down from 26 anyway, budget.
yeah.
Bump it back up and give yourself some
Okay.
flexibility. I would bump it for, plus 30,
Okay.
at least, to get a, quality person, we probably 150, 175, something like that, to get the right person in the seat. Give yourself some flexibility.
We'll do that.
Yeah. I would do that.
Moving forward, we're on page 22, Public Safety, the Police Department.
So we're in the process of, I think, hiring 5 police, and for fire, we're in the process, I think, of hiring 6. There are actually 5 with the fire. I think we have somebody that's probably, I think, coming on that's already has academy and all that stuff.
On page 23, the line item business professional and technology, technology, 210, 600, and the 168, is that for Prime software?
Yeah. I'm sure all the different softwares and different things they use.
Page 24 is capital, has nothing on it. Now we're on page 25, the fire department. You said they're hiring 6?
Bringing on 6, yeah. I think 5 will have to do the whole process of the, and so we do have overlap there because we try to hire people before people retire, so we usually keep the money to have overlap.
How many retirees, Scott, meet in the police and fire?
There's a few, it's hard to keep track. Honestly, there's like 1 or 2 going every year.
I know there's 2 or 3 going that were scheduled to go this summer, and then I go a little bit later.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some that just left. Yeah, we had some that just left a couple last
Yeah,
month,
yeah.
months ago.
It was,
Number
Yeah.
20.
it was before my time, but when does like the pumper truck and the new tower truck hit the budget, or has it already?
So the tower truck is in there, and the other one is in there as well, right? We've got payments on that yet? For this?
We've made a payment on the pumper, the debt service will be hitting in the FY '27 budget, and we have the Tower, debt service already in the budget.
So the tower's out, obviously, and then opera's coming too.
Oh, yeah. You could follow that.
That wasn't a fixed price until it gets delivered. Is that accurate?
Okay, we're gonna move forward to code enforcement, building inspection. This is page 28. Any questions on that one? 29, 30, 31. Those are all different types of code enforcers. Next is public safety, emergency management. I'm on page 32.
Very busy the last couple of days.
They're
They're earning their money.
little money. Next is public safety, animal control. And we still have the part-time person on?
No, we don't, but we're trying to bring somebody else on now. So we're-
Okay, but we did have somebody.
Yeah, we did, and we got some coverage, but we really want to have somebody that is able to give the other person a break.
The other person does a great job.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
We have the harbor master, page 35.
He's back.
And next is page 36, public safety dispatcher. I know we budget 13, and I know that they come.
It's very fluctuating, I think we just brought somebody on, or we just brought another person on, so we're trying to do the best to get up to 13.
And
It's
with
gonna come and go.
we moved the pace up though to get more competitive.
It's much more competitive for salary.
That's important.
How's the rehabbing of the dispatcher's office coming out?
Good, so they're gonna be, they realized that I just had a meeting last week on it, but they have an electrical panel that needs to be upgraded, so there was a change order because they realized, because we're gonna be, as everybody knows, they're gonna be temporarily putting their dispatch up into the training room.
I thought they
Well,
were there now. No.
No, so they're running wires, actually, they were over there running wires and doing things, but they had to make sure they had a panel that is, that panel and those circuits are connected to the generator. And they weren't, so there's like, they didn't realize that, but they're now doing that, so this will move pretty quickly now. But they're doing, complete renovation of the downstairs, they're taking the CO, the lieutenant's office, and everything else, and they're taking that, I don't know if you know that lobby in the back, that's up to the back door, they're gonna use that space and recreate everything there, so that they'll have a much more laid out system. But they have to temporarily make sure the 911 and all those circuits are hooked up to the generator.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're on page 37, the vote school, regional school assessment. How many students are going to Essex Aggie? Last time we said it was about 19.
So the 26 enrollment is 26 students.
26.
How many at the moment?
I
They
think it's up,
budgeted us for 121.
keeps going down. It was 200
It was like 215
at one point.
yeah, 6 years ago.
We'd like to have more spots. I mean, people complain, the cost, we'd rather, have more spots.
Yeah.
It's a good, great education.
Absolutely. Next, with the Department of Public Works on page 38. I assume we have some open positions there, or
I think we might have one.
one?
Assistant director,
Assistant director still, I think we've hired 4 or 5 of those.
Okay, we'll go on in that budget.
So page 38, Forestry 39, Highway Division 40. Snow and ice salaries, that's snow. That's on page 41. Motor pool division salaries. Waste collection and disposal salaries, that's page 43. Page 44 is cemetery division salaries.
So we have one, but we have, there's a big,
Yes.
it's not there, so it's, we're trying to work through that now, because it's been a while.
So we have one opening in cemetery
Yes.
and parks division. Any questions, Bill? Next, we have the expenses for each one of those categories. On page 46, we have the Department of Public Works expenses. Forestry Division expenses on page 47. 48, we have the Highway Division expenses. I see we're keeping the budget's pretty much the same as last year, but we are going up at 25,000 on street paving. I know everybody wants the street paved,
Yeah.
except for when it's being paved, because then it's inconvenience.
Correct.
That's page 48. Page 49, showing Ice Division expenses, and we've already talked a little bit about that, but when we always budget the 165, and have to go back. because-
Madam Chair,
Yes, of course.
Excuse me, I think one thing to point out is people often ask the question about the DPW and our manpower or manpower. Without clerks and without billing people and things like that, I'm counting 24 positions in the DPW. That's up pretty dramatically from where we were 3-4 years ago. I know
You know, we added a couple, it's just they're hard to fill, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and you guys know, we hire people and then we, you know, send, you know, we go through a physical and a drug
Yeah.
test and all that, and then it's sort of like they never, it doesn't seem like it pans out.
But I mean, I'm not including
Yeah.
waste and recycling, I'm
Yeah.
not including clerks. I'm counting 24 positions,
Yeah.
in foremen, operators, superintendents, things like that. So that's
Yeah.
good to know as far as numbers.
We can always use more.
Yeah.
How old is the age for summer help?
Some help, I think, we do take high school to college, I think we're 16
Yeah.
to college kids. We have a lot of college kids that come back, they're pretty good, so
They
once
do.
they.
I'll tell you, they do. It makes a huge difference.
So one thing I did
Early
is
use of
empty on it, so
equipment.
I basically say, even if we don't, we'll figure out the budget, but as many as we can get, because we go through stages where we can't get anybody, or they only wanna work part-time.
Right.
Now it seems like it's going back where we have some people that wanna work full-time, you know what I mean, which is better, it's more consistent, and it's a real
They're
job.
all hard workers, too.
I love it.
Yeah,
Seeing
The
them
money's
running
worth this
around.
year from them, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, we have some of them that stay on temporarily, we'll bring them back in the winter.
It's even nice to like put the trash in the parks and stuff, and
Well,
it's nice.
Well, even now, it's like bizarre, I mean, it's a whole different world, like they have colleges now do online courses for a semester. I don't even know, that, you wonder why they have social issues, because you're doing everything online, but some of those people will work while they're doing online courses. So, I mean, there's a whole different way of college. I have a nephew down in University of Florida, and he's like, the winter semester, it's like, he's in the dorm, but he's doing, it's all online classes, it's just different, I don't know. Different way, you wonder why people socially, I don't think that's a good idea, but.
Definitely not.
Okay. We're now on page 50 for the street lighting division. There was no change in budget from the year before,
Yeah.
what I said. Page 51, motor vehicle maintenance division. 51, 52, waste collection and disposal expenses, on page 53.
Question, one more time. Scott, we signed 3-year contracts both with Capital and Wind.
So Capital, we were in the process of doing the contract, because we had brought them in like the day that we signed them up the day of the thing. So we have an agreement, but that's legal, that we're now putting into a formal.
So this 3,400 was just 34
Oh, no, that's the right cost,
for 1 year.
yes,
Oh, okay, for this year.
yeah.
And then you're negotiating with them for,
No, it's a 5-year agreement.
Oh,
It's just a matter of, like, the lawyers have it, they're going through to put it together, to formalize it.
and what about Wind?
And that one, we do have a contract, 5-year contract.
How many years we into it for?
I think it went into effect last year.
So we got 4 years
They
left?
were both close. I think one was like in January, the other one was in July. What?
Is it 3 with renewal?
It might be 3 with renewal.
3.
Yeah, it might be a 3 with renewal.
Sorry.
It's a 3 with a couple options.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that, the thing is that we did very well with the hauling. The hauling costs from the other company, another company we talked to would have been, it's a savings probably around, over a 5-year period, looking at like 5.5 million or more, right? We tried to figure it out, almost 5.5 to 6 million. And it gives us the flexibility of going to, which we'll do at some point, going to automation and all that without any cost other than us buying the barrels. Whereas the other thing was nothing was like set in stone, it was like a fluid thing of renegotiating. they've done a good job, you know, I mean, nobody's perfect, but compared to what was going on for a couple of years, we remember they weren't even picking up trash every single night, so.
We had problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's, I mean, it's a big savings, it's an increase from what we had for a contract, no question about it. But it's a savings with other bids and quotes that we got, by about saving almost $6 million over 5 years. But those are increasing costs.
Yeah, it did increase from 20.
Unrelated to this part of the budget, but any sense of where we are with the new water meter replacements, the percentage?
Yeah, we did pretty long, but this is,
I know my
Yeah.
app's not working and it's driving me insane. I want
Well,
my,
that's.
it's gotta be brought online, right? Once-
So the process is, once the meter is installed, then it goes through quality control with the installation company. That's a couple weeks. Then it goes through quality control with the project manager. That's a couple weeks. I'm also late on getting the water bill out, so that's causing another delay with the upgrade, but I'm
Oh, yeah,
almost
you're getting
done.
mud on social media.
Yeah, that's okay.
they get it, they're well.
Wendy?
They have the money, right? They haven't paid their water bill, they have the money to pay it when it comes in. So I'm getting through the review on all those. That's taking longer than was expected. So once all of that gets done, and then I bring, because I haven't updated any new transfers since the beginning of September. Once I do that, all your apps are gonna, start flowing.
So when's the anticipated tax bill, water bill coming?
I should be out within a
Mike's
couple of
waiting
weeks,
patiently.
actually.
We have to get it out, so you'll be
Yeah,
getting.
be out in the
into
next couple of
revenue.
weeks.
Mike's
then-
nervous.
And then the next one will come out right after it.
You had that toilet bill for like,
I would say that we are probably 70% installed.
Yeah.
We have issues where, the DPW is gonna have to dig up curb stops and things when spring comes, and there's some issues that the plumbing is just so bad that, some decisions have to be made that way, and some people are just outright refusing us.
and we're taking advantage
It
of that.
literally takes them 15 minutes.
But we're taking advantage also of doing the inventory for the copper, lead and copper. So we're inventorying what's there, because that's a whole nother issue that we're dealing with, being compliance.
A lot of DEP compliance there.
So we kind of combine both of those issues. That's perfect.
So page 54 is the cemetery division expenses. The next is the page 55, the park division expenses. Do you want to give us a real quick update on Golden Hills and Stepwell?
Yes, so those will be, I think we'll, as you know, we're getting through the thing, so once the ground thaws, we'll be moving forward those pretty quickly, so we'll probably put some kind of informational thing together. But I think the stack will, is gonna be demo there. That would start with demo, and be a little bit of demo, but Golden Hills, but they'll be starting pretty quickly once the ground thaws. We've already done masonry work at the stack hole. We're gonna do some more, try to restore the walls there that are probably 100 years old. And those old ticket booths there, they're expensive, because of prevailing wages, but I think it'll be nice to help sort of keep it restored, so that, fixing that, they'll have the wall last, 50 years. But we already started doing work on that.
Thank you. Next is page 56, Department of Public Works Capital. Next we're at the engineering department on page 57.
So we're in the process now, I don't want to say too much, but I think we're going to an electronic permitting system. So one of the things that is a goal for me is to make sure that everybody's able to utilize that, it gets implemented. Because it's, assessors want it for a certain reason, engineering wants it, they already have a system. Collective want it for their system, the fire department, everybody wants a different thing, and it's sort of kind of figured out, but it looks like I'm gonna bring somebody on that's gonna deal with GIS, the GIS system, and help improve that, like as we've been doing, we've gotten grants and we've been doing a ton with that, but also to oversee implementing the online permitting system for each department, because everybody wants it, but they don't realize it, Wendy and I, she's already doing the water meter, there's not a lot of capacity because this stuff doesn't happen automatically. It's not like you just flip the switch and it's automatic. It can be problems, someone has to manage it. But I think found somebody that I think would be good with dealing with the GIS database and implementation as well as overseeing things, and I hope that pans out, but that's something that's gonna happen pretty soon.
What's the timeframe on the digital permit?
Well, the information, we already, we're under, I think, reviewing contract now, but I think, I don't know what the time, we'll have to bring somebody in that can head it with them and train everybody and whatnot. But, yeah, my thing is not just with in the administrators, I want all the systems to communicate so that the permits that get drawn in go right to the assessors, like, there's no like, oh, did you forget to put one down and all that? And then be able to integrate with engineering and DPW as well as fire department and all that. It'd be nice to have it all, integrated and someone's overseeing.
Not that it's worth anything, but my personal experience, Citizen Serve, probably the best one.
Which one?
Citizen Serve.
Yeah,
Probably one
I
of
think
the,
they like it. I like that one. They seem like it. Every department, I try
Yeah,
to get them to decide that they like this one, and then this one likes that one,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. Maybe there's another one open golf or something.
Yeah.
there's a bunch.
We're now on page 58, facilities, maintenance, and grounds. And that budget goes all the way to page 61. Are there any open positions?
Where is this? What's the problem?
Facilities, maintenance, and
I
grounds.
think we do have, I think we're trying to bring on, I think we had, or we had one from last year, we're trying to bring on another custodian. Right, a custodian. I think we might have hired somebody in an electrician position that we've been trying to fill, which if we don't fill that, we may bring somebody else in that's not electrician. Just to have additional, maybe sort of somebody that can learn from some of the people that have been here for a while. And I think we're trying to bring on a part-time, lots of part-time custodian. I don't know if that's in there.
Yeah, it's in here. Health Department, that's on page 62. Any questions on the Health Department? It moves on to 63. Council of Aging, page 64. Veteran Services, page 65. 66 is the library. 67 is youth and young. 68 is Lobsterman's Landing. 69 is celebrations, and those are for the veterans markers. Do we need any money for the 250th celebration?
No, we have money. And I think we talked about that, I think so, we're gonna have to see, I think I talked to a couple of you called me about it. But I think the Stackpole field, we're gonna have to try to see where we are with the construction, if there's a way of roping things off. I'm told that some of the stuff that, we're ordered, but there's a lead in the supply chain thing that takes time for like the bleachers and different things that we're ordering. So I don't think it'll be all complete by July 4th. But I don't know what it'll look like, so we're trying to figure it out in the next couple of weeks to see if there's a way of roping things off and still have the vendor, or if we have to look at an alternative place to have. I think somebody submitted a permit, they don't need a permit, it's a town event, so somebody said something to youth and rec. But no worries, what I mean, it's a town event.
Yeah, well, they're worried because if they don't use Stackpole, they're gonna need to find someplace else.
Yeah, so I would think about, try to think of some alternatives in case. I just don't know, I'm hoping that you'd be able to rope stuff off, because, you know what I mean? It's sort of, so that it's I think we'll be much further into the project, so I think it'll be stuff that is probably lead time issues. If that makes sense.
Now we're on page 70, debt service principal and interest. We move on to employee benefits, which is on page 71. You see the big increases in there. Page 72 is other insurance. And page 73 is transfers and other finance sources.
Then we go to the note page.
Oh, no page on this.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we finished with that piece of it, you okay? Yeah. Program and operating budget, the SOAR Enterprise Fund. Do board members have any questions on the SOAR Enterprise Funds?
Just one quick question. We have to have speed with personnel in both departments. So,
Do you have what?
are you up to date with personnel
Yeah.
in both departments?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
And the last budget to vote on is our Water Enterprise Fund. Did we bring on somebody new for full-time?
For what?
Water Enterprise Fund? I'm just looking at the salary, the budget versus the, or is it different allocation?
I don't think so. Maybe someone just moved into that department. That was at a lower pay, I don't know. But
When it includes the billing and, the billing coordinator and
yeah,
tech.
the people that are, the clerks and stuff
So
work.
somebody moved into
Well,
that?
no, they've been in there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just that there was a bit of an increase, I was just curious if somebody knew who that went into that salary line item.
So I think, maybe I'm messing up, but we talked about this before, so we're going to the new water meter system, so we have a water tech, but I think they were in the budget last year. We didn't fill, we had the position filled for a little bit, but then she left. So I think that's what we have in there is a tech and, I think that was in there last year.
Yeah, it was.
And just a quick question, just looking at the debt service fund, we had a few projects that came up on the operating budget side, but then on the ones that are funded by the debt exclusions, it looks like the Belmonte reconstruction looks based on paying $500,000 in principal down a year, we've got about 8 years left. But any sense of when the peak on the high school debt service will hit?
It's already good.
It can't, because based on current principle, it would still be term out at like 32 years. It's too long. I think it's still gonna go up a little bit, right?
Should.
Right now, it's at 1.5 and 690,000.
So the debt service on the debt excluded projects
Yeah.
was built on a level debt service, so there isn't going to be a steep decline or a steep peak.
Yeah.
And it was done so to try and maintain some stability with the tax rate.
Okay.
Because when you have it grow and
Goes
peak,
up.
and yeah, and then it starts to go down, you have that fluctuation in the tax rate.
Yeah.
We talked about that last year.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be
Yeah.
level.
Right, but
So it's
looking
level
at
debt
looking at
service.
the balance on just the high school, middle school project, the balance is like 75 million on our debt service. That's the balance outstanding.
Yep.
If you take what we're paying roughly 2.1, 2.2 million. It would be over 30 years still. Our borrowing, isn't our borrowing 20 on that?
I thought it was
30.
But we don't have 30 left. I mean,
No, it should be like 25.
No, but I can look at that for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I just think
Should be like
we should just
25.
take a peek at that, because.
Because we borrowed at the beginning and it peaked out.
Yeah, and we borrowed it.
Not to say it again, but most of it's under 1%.
Yeah, it's huge. And you can see the interest.
Not to brag.
We just had somebody talking about the other day saying if you wanted to build that now, it'd be over
Oh.
$400 million.
No doubt,
Sure.
no doubt. But it's good to see the
We
principal
spent
balance.
160 million.
The principal balance is already
Yeah,
down.
it's
500 million for new high school a couple of years ago.
We've already paid down 15 million on the principal on the high school project. We've already paid
Pretty
down
good.
15 million. But I just was interested to see that, but Monty reconstruction looks like it only has 8 years left.
Yeah, that was, I think, the last year's.
That was the old.
That's the
project.
old one, yeah,
That's
yeah,
not
yeah.
the most recent.
Right, but it's still gonna fall off.
That was a 20-year one, right?
Yeah.
Back in 20, that's 20, what was it, 09 or something? Tom? No, what was it? I mean,
A while
2019.
ago.
remember.
You inherited it.
Yeah, I remember when that was. 2010 maybe?
Do board members have any additional questions before I ask for a vote? So with that said,
I would make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2027 budget as presented. Change is that one modification to bump up that.
Yeah, well, yeah, we can do that through the process.
Yeah, through the process, but as presented by both the town manager and the treasurer department.
And we can send it to the finance.
And send it to finance.
And that's seconded by the chair. Is there further discussion? You want to have a roll call vote on this? We usually just do a regular. Okay. All those in favor of Selectman Chicalini's motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you
Again,
very much.
I want to thank the board members. I mean, I know it was tough to get here this morning with the blizzard. Thank you to Wendy, of course, our town manager, Meredith, thank you for taking minutes. Again, thank you for SCTV. John, thank you for coming to this morning. And of course, Mark, who always reports, make sure that our residents know what's going on in town, which is very important.
No remote reporting from Mark. He's an in-person guy.
He certainly is.
That's why I like the old school people. Still like the in-person stuff. It's great.
So with that said, would somebody please make a motion to adjourn? And that's second.
Thank you, Wendy.
Chair,
Thank you,
all those in
everyone.
favor,
Thank you very much.
The ayes, motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you.